From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. One day after the release of our last episode, a group of Theraproducers met for an impromptu board meeting at an undisclosed location in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 3 days later, Secretary of Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen suddenly resigns. I don't know. You do the math. And now, broadcasting from Level 9 Studios, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Their power is unquestioned. Their power is unquestioned. That was hilarious.
I know there's going to be some people out there who will say that those are completely unrelated.
That's
and if
fine.
you want to believe that, you can.
You can believe whatever you want. But I mean,
that's
causation, causality, who's to say? So
I don't know. Seems awful suspicious to me.
Okay, but I'll tell you who knows the truth, Nick, the patrons. They know the truth. And they know the truth of how many times you make mistakes and then try to cover up the record. I own my mistakes. I don't edit them out. You do. You cut them out.
Technically,
I'm not going to.
You'll cut it out.
Yeah, this is your episode. I edited the last one.
That's fine. I can piece this together.
Yeah, I can't wait to
so
hear
I
the
had
finished
to,
product.
So I had to record the intro twice.
It happens. It happens. So if you can hear the difference in Nick's voice, if he sounds, approximately 20 years younger right now, like maybe he shouldn't be on the show, it's because Nick is bald. He has shaven his what is it? Your face is shorn. Your face has been shorn. So you seriously look 10 years old. It's funny because the other day I was looking at our logo picture and like it's the pictures we took at and you were pretty shaved in that one too.
I'll bleep that out.
Yeah, bleep out that place. and yeah, so I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, and I was thinking to myself, maybe we should redo pictures because I've kind of been thinking like, oh, do we want to like update or do new logos or whatever? And I was like, man, maybe we should do new pictures, because like now he has this cool beard and like I was thinking to myself, yeah, we got to lead with that beard. And now you just ripped it away from me.
Well, it's funny because so I was on an episode of Grunt Work.
Yeah, I think it's coming out this last
it came
week.
out today.
Yeah.
So I was
today the day we're recording it.
Yeah, today and I was actually listening to it on the way in today.
Okay.
And they were complimenting me
on your beard.
On my beard.
Yeah. I feel
and
like
now I feel like
you took away the best part of you. That was it. The most redeeming part of who you are.
I really have
beard.
Nothing else to offer.
That was it. 100%. I'm surprised. Has Laura left you yet? I mean, that's minutes away.
I haven't seen her today. I don't
Check
know.
your text.
I don't know. It's 8:00. We'll see what
I'm sorry. I'm on my way to a lumberjack convention. I can't live like this anymore. I didn't marry a woman. I don't want this. This is not going to work for me.
Who knows? We'll see.
Maybe it'll all shake back together, Nick. But the people want the beard back. So
it's coming back. I just needed a break.
But you know what really makes me mad is that it literally will be back by the end of this episode. That is how fast your hair grows, and I'm so bitter about it. I'm so angry. It's fine. I've made peace. It's just you don't cherish things. You just throw them away. I feel like you just do whatever you want.
Yeah,
that's
done
fine.
with this.
Yeah, just wipe your nose on $100 bills, and who cares?
Yeah.
The rest of us can't grow a mustache.
That's how I live my life.
Whatever. Take us into the A block.
So I thought it'd be kind of cool today. Last time we were here
at Level 9. Yeah. Was our anniversary episode.
Yeah. And we did a kind of a deep dive, a psychological deep dive into our favorite study.
Study show and tell. That was a fun episode.
So I thought it'd be kind of fun to bring that back.
Okay. Yeah.
So today.
Reminisce.
Yes. I wanted to talk about the Festinger and Carl Smith study.
Yeah. Festinger, also very kinky sex act.
Yeah, 1959.
And there goes the explicit label on this episode. Right. Didn't have to happen, but now here it is.
Yeah, so 1959. I don't know how well you remember this
study.
How
old were you in 59?
I was 10.
Okay.
Yes.
Approximately the same age as you are today, now that you shaved.
Yes. I age well.
Yeah. This vampire gene's really working out for you.
Yeah, so this is the study that kind of got into cognitive dissonance.
Okay.
So you kind of understand what cognitive dissonance is.
Sure as I'll hope so, Nick.
Yeah, okay. Tell our folks your definition of cognitive dissonance.
I think I know what it is, but do you know what it is?
Well, I don't know.
To me, cognitive dissonance is this phrase that it's thrown around all the time.
Yes.
But it's basically believing two things that are not compatible simultaneously and sort of maybe not catching the contradiction or leaning in on it and just going with it. And people will say, so that's dissonant. These are two different things. They don't relate to each other, or they can't simultaneously be true. but you sort of accept them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this kind of comes from, at the time, they were really looking at how attitudes impact behavior.
Okay.
What is the link? Like how strong is that link, and how does that lead to behavior, and can we predict behavior if we understand attitudes?
Fair enough.
So this is where this is all coming from, and this idea of cognitive consistency. So the more consistent you are with your thoughts and your attitudes and your behaviors, right, are going to be more calming. So the opposite of that than cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
When we're saying one thing or our attitudes are one thing, but our thoughts are something different.
Yeah.
Or our thoughts, we have two competing thoughts, or our thoughts are one thing and our behaviors are different.
It's interesting because knowing the history of psychotherapy, when I hear you describing that, especially a study in the 50s, it very much reminds me of Carl Rogers, founder of person-centered therapy, who talked a lot about congruence and this idea that, the kind of the beginning of your problems and dysfunctions is usually some kind of psychological incongruence, or almost like a spinal realignment. Like, something's out of alignment. It's not like your chakras, but it's like your values and what you know is to be true and how you're behaving are not congruent.
Exactly. Yeah. So what Festinger and Carl Smith did in 1959 is they conducted this experiment where they had participants come in and they had to do 2 tasks, and each task was about 30 minutes long.
Okay.
And they intentionally made the tasks as mundane and boring as possible.
So they had to listen to 2 episodes of Pod Therapy. Yeah.
Yes.
What was the suicidality of this? Did the IRB take away their status?
Yeah.
This must have been before their regulations.
Yeah, there were completely.
The Geneva Convention got involved.
It was the Wild West.
These guys were dragged before the Hague.
Yeah. No, it was not that bad.
Okay.
But it was almost as bad.
Almost.
So one of the tasks was there was these pegs that were on a board. So a row of 5 across and 5 down.
Okay.
And they were square pegs, and they would have to go in and turn each one 90 degrees.
Okay.
And
so they had to,
so they would just
you have to almost like a light bulb, you have to screw in a light bulb, but it'd be like a little peg on the board, and you'd have to reach in there
and you just do that
and turn each one 90 degrees.
And then you go and you do it again.
Oh.
And then you do it again.
For 30 minutes.
And then you do it again for 30 minutes. Right.
What is this testing?
Okay. So
this
is where it gets really cool. So then what happens is they want to make it really boring. They want the people to say, this is absolutely terrible. Enough. I don't want to do this. Then after they did that, the experimenter would say, hey, thank you. Here's what we're looking at. I think it was something like how expectations influence behavior or something like that. Okay. I can't remember, but they made something up saying what they were studying.
Yeah. 90% of all studies, by the way, lies. They're just lying right to your face. Whatever they told you is not what they're studying.
So they wanted the next person to come in to have the expectation that this was going to be fun.
Okay.
And they said, hey, look, the person who's supposed to tell the next person that this is really fun isn't here today. Can you help me out? Can you go into the lobby and tell this person how great of a time you had?
So wait, person A just finished this monotonous, horrific thing.
Yes.
And they're sick of it.
Yes.
And they're ready to leave.
Yes.
And the experimenter says, hey, real quick.
Before you go.
Yeah.
Could you tell person B out in the lobby?
Can you be my hype man?
Yeah.
You built this thing up.
This was the start of hype man. Yeah. So
throw your hands in the air. Do some psychology experiments.
So he said, can you go out in the lobby and tell person B that this was awesome, that this was so much fun and so amazing?
Yeah.
And they did this for all the participants, except there was a control. Well, there was 3 groups. There was a control group that they didn't get any money.
Okay.
Then there was a second group that they got $1 for doing this task.
So the person A who just did the test, the hype man now, he gets $1 for hyping.
So if I'm the experimenter, you just finished the task. I say, hey, go out to the lobby.
Hype the next guy.
Tell Scott that this is amazing.
Yeah.
So much fun.
And you'll give me $1.
And here's $1 for your trouble.
Do it. All right. Yeah. Well, what would you do for $1?
Or
I'd lie to a man.
Or
I lie for free. I do it every week on this show.
The other group got $20.
Oh, damn.
To do this task.
Okay. But they don't know that other guys are getting paid for this. Okay.
Yeah, there's separate groups.
Okay.
So then after doing that, then they did an interview with that person. So you
the hype
would
man
go out, you would
hype the next guy. Yeah.
And then somebody would catch you on your way out and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes? Let me talk to you about this thing.
Oh yeah.
Right?
How's the experiment?
And then they would actually like interview you about how the experiment went.
Oh, did I get my money?
Yes, you already got your money.
Oh, so now it's just like an after thing.
So here's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
How do you think those interviews went for the $1 group versus the $20 group?
Versus the control group.
Yeah, because
the control group, you said, hey man, can you hype the next dude?
Right.
And you didn't offer to give me anything.
Forget the control group. It's not relevant for this.
Okay. Well, I feel like control is relevant in science.
It is. Okay. But the real thing is the difference between the $1 group and the $20 group. Because operant conditioning by Skinner would tell us that the $20 group would really say it was enjoyable because they got a higher reward.
Right.
But that's not what happened. The $1 group by far reported the experience as being way more enjoyable than the $20 group.
Hold on. I question about this. Okay. So you're saying, $1 man, he does his little knob turning thing. You say, hey, bro, can you hype the next guy? I'll give you $1. He says, cool. Takes his $1, goes out to the lobby, hypes the next dude, is walking out. Experimenter grabs him real quick, says, hey, can you answer a few questions? Guy says, yeah, sure, whatever. He says, how did you like the thing? And Dollar Man says, it was great.
Loved it.
I
Amazing.
loved it.
Had a great time.
But he's not trying to hype right now.
No, he's not hyping.
He's just answering real questions.
He's honestly saying.
And you're saying $20 man, same thing. Hey, bro, can you go out and hype the next guy? Yeah, I'll do that. Hey, here's 20 for your troubles, man. Take a Jackson. And it's like, okay, so you run out there, you hype the next dude. You're walking out, whistling a jaunty tune. You got $20. And then the experimenter says, hey, man, can I ask you a quick question? How did you like all this? And he goes, whatever.
Terrible.
What?
Yes.
For $20?
Yes.
I'd lie more convincingly for $20.
No, but you're missing the point.
Because you're not lying.
That's not the study.
You're telling the truth.
Okay, so what they're actually creating is they're creating cognitive dissonance. Okay.
Oh.
They have to explain something. They have to lie to somebody. They have to say something that doesn't fit with their attitude. Because it was a crappy
experiment for everybody.
Exactly. But so here's what happened.
I feel like I get it now.
Okay. You want to take a stab at it?
All right. Here's what I think it is.
Okay.
Imagine 2 points in space. Okay. The distance between those 2 points is longer for $20 man because he enjoyed this very little, but he was compensated very well to pretend like he did. So maybe he feels dishonest. And so he's going to tell you, I didn't like this. Whereas Dollar Man was like, whatever, I only lied a little bit.
No.
Okay.
Not exactly.
All right.
What happens is because they're both dealing with cognitive dissonance.
Meaning two contradictory things.
The group that got the $20, they have an excuse.
Okay.
They were sufficiently rewarded for their behavior. Well, I was paid this amount to lie.
Thing.
Right? I was paid $20 to lie. That is a sufficient amount.
Okay.
The $1 group doesn't have that because they were given $1 to lie. And in their mind, that wasn't sufficient. So they're still stuck with cognitive dissonance. So because they couldn't change the dollar amount, they had to change their attitude.
They had to accept that it was fun.
Yes. So
now they honestly tell you, I had a good time.
So cognitive dissonance is when those two pieces don't mesh together. So they were unable to explain it any other way. They couldn't rationalize it by saying it was the money because the money wasn't sufficient enough for the lie. So they rationalized. They were able to change their attitude about it.
Because you asked a human to believe something that wasn't true, which they do during the hyping. They have to, in order to channel a convincing lie, they have to almost convince themselves that it's true. Right. So they're trying to believe that it was fun and be convincing, and therefore now they are being cognitively dissonant. They believe two things simultaneously to be true. It was boring, it was fun. But the $20 people, they actually will tell you afterward, it wasn't fun.
Right.
Because they don't believe it was fun. But the dollar people, still caught up in the lie and the masquerade of it, feeling unfinished with that, they will say it was fun, almost as if they're now believing their own lie.
Yeah. So when we're stuck with cognitive dissonance, there's certain ways of resolving it. Okay. So there's some common strategies. You can change your attitude. Okay. So like,
well, hold on. Before you jump into how to fix it, I still need you to explain to me a real world scenario.
This is it.
Oh,
I'm getting to it.
Got it.
Okay. So let's look at another example. Let's look at somebody who is a smoker.
Okay.
Who has the attitude that smoking is unhealthy.
Okay.
Okay. This is the cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Because they have that attitude, I shouldn't be doing this. This is unhealthy. But their behavior is, I'm smoking.
Okay, so let's take me for example. If you're playing Jim's Neurotic Bingo at home, get your card ready.
Oh, all right.
So yes, I went on a great weekend. I was at Lake Havasu and we had a great time and I ate and I had a great time and I filled up, man, and I felt bloated afterward, right? So Monday comes, I'm like, I'm going on a little fast here. I'm not eating all day. I'm going to get to the next day and I'll skinny out some of this, right? I'll pay my penance to the calorie fairy. So get through the whole day Monday, do all my sessions. The whole day I haven't had anything to eat. I've just had some water and some coffee. I'm good. Get home, get through the night. My wife's like, do you want anything? No, I'm good. I don't want anything because I'm good. I'm not even hungry. I know I'm not hungry. I'm fine. And then like 11 p.m. rolls around. I'm still awake. And I'm like, is Taco Bell open? Maybe I'll go to Taco Bell. And I'm like, Jim, why are you going to Taco Bell? Like, you don't want this. You're fine. You're trying to be healthy right now. And you're not even hungry. But then I'm like, but it's open. Maybe I'm hungry. I don't know what I am. And so I go, okay, so now I feel like you're a smoker because it's like, I know I shouldn't be eating this Taco Bell,
okay,
but
right.
I am eating the Taco Bell and not like a little of it, like a lot of it.
Right. So you can change your attitude.
Okay.
Okay. That's the first thing that you do. So people can simply change their attitudes to make them consistent with the discrepant attitude or prior behaviors. Right. So this would be like the smoker saying, I don't really need to quit. I like smoking. Okay, that's a change in attitude. The second thing you can do.
So I could give myself permission and I could say, no, it's cool, man. Taco Bell's great. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're changing your attitude. You're saying Taco Bell's is
I'm
fine.
not resisting it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Right. Who cares? Fast is over.
Second thing, you can add a thought. Okay. Adding cognition. So if two discrepant thoughts cause dissonance, people can add a more consistent thought.
So my first thought is I'm fasting. My second thought is I want Taco Bell. These have dissonance. So now I'm adding a third thought.
Well, I have to eat.
Okay.
Eating is healthy. Not eating is unhealthy.
And that bridges these two.
Exactly.
So my first option was change my attitude. Nope, I'm hungry for Taco Bell. Second option, link the two.
Well, yes, you're adding another thought to bridge the
third
gap,
way.
Right?
Yeah, it's not either fasting or Taco Bell.
Right.
It's, well, I'm a human and I need to eat, so I'm eating now.
So the smoker could say, smoking relaxes me. It keeps my weight down, which benefits my health.
Okay, I feel like you're trying to convince me to smoke. Why do you have a Virginia
Slim?
Up?
What's going on?
What are you doing?
We're indoors. Put that out. Okay, so altering the importance of the discrepancy.
That's the third one?
That's the third one. So people can alter the importance of the of that thought. Yeah.
Okay.
And the discrepant thoughts. So the smoking example, it's more important to stay relaxed and slim than worry about maybe getting cancer 30 years from now.
Oh.
So we're discrediting the harm that's done. Right.
So here I am saying, okay, I want to fast versus I want Taco Bell. These are dissonant ideas. And now I'm going to add.
So why do you want to fast? For your health.
For health and to lose weight.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to say, well, health is a concern later on down the road.
I have plenty of time. I'll fast tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or I'll make up for this later. Or, well, okay, you can't fast forever, Jim. Interesting. So you're saying that when we encounter cognitive dissonance, these are the ways that we sort of resolve that problem.
Right.
So when I think about what I did last night, I was telling myself I'm going to fast, but I also wanted Taco Bell. These are competing things. I think, what were my options again? Option A, I say
change the attitude.
Attitude is screw it, I want Taco Bell.
2 is we're going to add a thought.
I have to eat at some point, so I may as well eat now.
And then altering the importance of the discrepancy.
You know, fasting is not that big of a deal. It doesn't do that much good anyway. May as well have your Taco Bell.
Now 4.
There's 4?
There's 5.
Son
4,
of a...
reducing the perceived choice.
Oh, okay.
If you can convince yourself that you don't have a choice in the matter.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's 11 p.m. I have to eat, and this is the only place that's open.
I'm not going to get breakfast tomorrow. I need to eat now. That way I have some energy for tomorrow morning. What if I'm tired? Okay.
Yeah. So you're reducing the choice that you have.
I do all
right?
of
Like
these.
you're kind of forcing yourself. Yeah. And then changing the behavior is the last one, where you ultimately, your behaviors change and fall in line with your attitude.
So I do fast.
Yes.
I didn't do that. That was the one I think I did not do. So I think I did the other 4.
So in this experiment, they were only left with 2 options.
Okay.
Right? They could add a third thought, or they could change their attitude.
Because the money man, so this is the hype dude, and so now he can add a third thought and say, yeah, it really was a fun time. You know, I got paid for it. Or I guess he can...
Right. So the idea was that the $1 people experienced a greater amount of cognitive dissonance.
I see. Which is my 2 points thing I was kind of talking about, like the space between
but
dissonance.
You were wrong for why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's your opinion.
So interesting. So that essentially is kind of a little deep dive into cognitive
what
dissonance.
is cognitive dissonance. So in the real world, we do this literally all the time. If you've ever failed a diet, if you've ever struggled to cut back on something, if you've told yourself you're going to the gym on January 1st, like starting a new life, this is what I've got to do. I have no choice. My cholesterol is too high. My blood pressure is too high. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to get right. And then you don't, or you do something the opposite of that. That's dissonance.
Right.
You're doing 2 things or believing 2 things that are not, they can't both be true.
And they actually there was a follow-up study several years later that did a similar thing, but with toddlers, with little kids.
Oh, wow.
And what they did was they had a toy that all of the kids really enjoyed playing with. And they were told, you're going in this room, you cannot play with this toy.
It's like the Oreo experiment.
Yeah, but half of the group was told, you can't play with that toy because if you do, I'm going to take all the toys away and I'm going to go home with all my toys.
Huh.
And then the second group was told, you can't play with that toy because if you do, I'm going to be upset.
Okay.
So
the distance of cognitive dissonance
So
is
the
different.
I'm going to be upset is the $1, right? So it's like, oh, okay, you're upset. Who cares?
Right.
The other one is, oh my God, you're going to take all the toys. That's a much larger issue, right? And so then what they ended up finding is that the kids that were told I'm going to be upset, those were the ones that had a greater they reported more frequently and more often that they actually didn't like that toy anyway.
Because they have to reconcile
They
the
have
thought.
to reconcile the...
And so they'll go, I didn't care anyway.
None of the kids actually ended up playing with the toy. So they had to reconcile that I want to play with this toy, but I can't play with this toy. And
so how do I make sense of that?
Yeah, and the reason why I'm not is because he's going to be upset.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a sufficient enough justification.
So it's
I didn't like it anyway.
It's a dumb toy anyway.
Right.
Interesting. Wow. Humans are fickle. So I don't know how Kate's going to illustrate this, but good luck.
That's at least 40 pages.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck with that, Kate.
The Pod Therapy comic.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will discuss politics in relationships. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Smitty Scoop. Smitty Scoop, who texted me his veiled threats from Pittsburgh, where he rallied together a quorum of other Theraproducers, 4 of them to be exact, all of whom I know who you were. We're in the pictures, one of whom is the other Theraproducer for today's episode. And so apparently he made all sorts of empty threats at me, telling me that they were trying to replace me with a robot and also an emotional support animal. that would make a better show. Don't you nod your head, Nick. But just like dogs. Yeah. What is it? Who doesn't like dogs and robots? So thank you, Smitty, for not going through with your threats. And Smitty also offered to meet with me up in Washington, D.C., where I'm going to be at the beginning of May to have some sushi. So I thought that would be a lot of fun, too.
When are you going to be in D.C.?
First week of May. Yeah.
Like May 3rd?
Like 1, 2, 3. Like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that kind of thing.
Oh, because I'm going to be in D.C. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I'm going to be there the whole weekend. I'm bringing up the family. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, we should go have lunch with Smitty.
Well, we have to record an episode. Maybe
let's just record in DC. Oh my God, we're going to do this. Thank you so much for this. Smitty, join us in Washington, D.C. And if you would like to join Smitty Scoop in sponsoring the show, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about politics and relationships.
My wife is a progressive and I am a libertarian. When politics comes up, my wife quickly gets negative and accuses me of all kinds of terrible motives just because I'm against any government programs. It feels like it's gotten worse with Trump, even though I didn't vote for him, because if I'm not on board with thinking he's Hitler and colluded with Russia, that somehow it makes me complicit. Should I just avoid politics altogether, or is there any advice on approaching this while not getting yelled at? Well, first off, abandon all hopes of not getting yelled at by your wife. That's the first point. Second point, everybody knows Trump did not collude with Russia. He colluded with Dragon because Dragon are bad people, and they tried to kill the king.
Russia.
Yeah, so... Also, Pod Therapy does not endorse
Vladimir
Putin or Russia. It is a tough one. Politics and relationships, man. We've talked a little bit about this in the past.
That's some interesting ones. Politics, religion differences in relationships.
Especially in marriages. Yeah, it's really hard when you have like core value differences of how you see the world. And, you know, like a lot of people don't think politics is a big deal. I really do. I think it's a huge deal. Like, I think it's like dating profile amount of deal. Like, you should probably put it up there right up front. You know, like I think it's really, but I mean, you still end up in relationships where maybe views change over time. You know, I know when I first started my marriage, I was absolutely on one end of the spectrum. And today I'm really kind of near the other end. I've changed night and day. Thankfully, my wife did too. And so like we did that together. But I can definitely sense a lot of tension. I know a lot of relationships where this is something that comes up. But, you know, how do you navigate those tricky waters? I mean, whenever you've got two different opinions.
I mean, the good news is that progressive and libertarian aren't completely far apart on
I think they are. I think that those are both sides of the spectrum. Because, here's the way you have to look at it. There's a really cool like graph about this that actually shows where political ideas align.
Yeah, you talk about the diamond, right?
Yes, the diamond or the Cartesian graph.
I mean, I'm saying it could be further apart.
I see your point. But if you're a progressive, right, I mean, as a general rule, you believe that the government has an important role in regulation of a market, that their job is to create social programs and redistribute money throughout the ecosystem and ultimately carry a lot of folks that might need some support, right? And that ultimately is good for the whole society. It's moral, and that it creates some kind of economic, momentum, which is generally good, right? Then you have libertarianism, and a fair reading of libertarianism is this idea that the more encroaching a government gets, the larger it gets, the more unintended side effects it has, and then the more dependent the population become on that. And so it's actually better to create that void, which will be filled by the citizenry doing their normal business. And so like markets work better when they're deregulated. Humans fare better when you don't come in and tell them what they can and can't drink or can and can't smoke. That if you just trust humans to mostly not do dumb things, they will generally create their own patterns that make sense. And libertarians a lot of times are accused of like anarchy and like, and I'll actually go to the writer on this one. There are some things that I understand libertarianism on, and there's some things I'll tip my cap to. But one thing I do not tolerate very well, anytime anybody of any political stripe completely mischaracterizes the beliefs of the other side, that really bugs me.
So that was going to be one point that I was going to make too. I mean, if we're talking about a relationship, there has to be some kind of rules set on limiting that.
Right.
You know, you can have disagreements on certain things. That's going to happen in any relationship on whatever, you're talking about.
Yeah.
But there has to be some limit on we can't attack a person, and we're not going to have a straw man argument, right?
Right.
Like I'm not going to create this fictional stereotype of who you are and then address my concerns at that. Well, you must be a white supremacist because
of this.
You're right.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And so, to the writer, I think first off, to everybody out there, especially because we're entering into a political season, I'm just really going to encourage you to make politics an extension of your humanity. Don't let the normal rules of how you interact with other humans suddenly disappear whenever you're talking about politics. You wouldn't do that about other things, right? If somebody says, I'm from, New York, you'd be like, oh, so you're a Wall Street investor? Is that what you do? And you're like, no, there's definitely those people there, but no, I'm from a different part. No, you're not. You're all like that. And it's like, nobody's that stupid, right? That you would ever do that. But we do that with politics. Even though 50% of the entire national population aligns with a political party, we will stereotype and mischaracterize any individual we meet as if they align with the most radical view inside of that group. So that's disingenuous. It's dishonest. And so if your wife would be listening to this, I guess what I would talk to her about is, hey, at the end of the day, I hope that you don't believe that he believes those things, because then why are you married to him? If you really believe that he is okay with collusion with a foreign entity to overthrow American democracy, then you need to question a lot of things about your relationship, because apparently he has no moral barometer, right? And I think that's the first thing, is like when somebody mischaracterizes you, to ask them that question. Hey, in a somber tone, without yelling, without, taking debate, but asking them, I understand you're upset, but you don't really believe that I think that, do you? Mm-hmm. And when you allow your human tone to come through your voice in that way, and they don't hear the cadence of a politician, they don't hear the cadence of punditry, when you allow the cadence to become, hey, we're still husband and wife, we're sitting at the dinner table, I'm asking you, do you really think that I believe that? Do you really think I have no concern for the homeless? Or do you think that I believe my philosophy might help them, right? Can we agree that I'm a human being who shares your values, but I believe there's a different bridge to get to that destination?
Right.
And I think that is a humanizing thing. And obviously to the writer, you don't have control over how she thinks or what she will say to you. But one thing I'm always a big fan of is a humanizing cadence and tone that doesn't take offense, that doesn't take the bait of the argument, but reminds the other person that you're talking to that you're a human and that they actually do know you, and invite them to answer that question. Hey, do you really think that I believe that?
So what I'm kind of hearing you say then is being able to get to a point where you can find a common ground of values.
Yeah.
What you both agree on.
Right.
We both agree that this is very important.
Yeah.
Your way of doing it is doing it this way. I disagree with that. My way, how I would do it, is this way. But we're ultimately trying to solve the same.
Yeah. And another trick I'd bring into this, because I don't know if you know this, Nick, but I was on the high school debate team. It's pretty good.
Oh, I haven't heard that yet today.
Yeah. It's not something I bring up a lot. But I
don't know if you know this, but I'm an Eagle Scout.
Well, I've heard. Yeah, I heard that about you. But no. So when I was on the debate team, obviously I was trying to win an argument from a judge, right? I had a third party, and so I didn't care what my opponent said. I cared about getting this person that's listening to us to feel more, okay with my side of the street. But that's a very different posture than talking directly to somebody, person to person. In that case, a lot of times we make the mistake of talking to that person like a debater would. Like there's a live studio audience that you're going to convince to your side. There's no judge, right? There's no jury. So instead, the real human way to talk to another person is curiosity.
You're right.
And I find that that's way more effective. Like whenever I talk to people who I know don't agree with me, I realize that I have more to learn from them than they have to learn from me. And if both of us are convinced of our opinion, then I'm more interested in yours.
Right.
And I'm just going to be intellectual about this and say, so teach me about this. And I remember one time I went out with a bunch of friends to Hofbrauhaus, that German place. Remember this?
Oh, did I tell you about that?
No. Did you get paddled?
No, but that's where we went for my birthday.
You
went to
didn't get paddled? Oh, thanks for the invite.
Not this time.
Dick. I invited you to my birthday.
You were gone.
Uh-huh.
And it was a surprise.
Really convenient.
It was a surprise. But
thanks, Laura. Thanks for the invite. Dick.
I didn't get paddled this time, but I have before.
It hurts.
It does.
Did you do the Stein holding contest?
No, I didn't do that.
Oh, that hurts too.
Yeah. But when they'll like take one whack at you just as kind of like a warm up.
Yeah, and they're not even messing around.
That hurt. And then that drives the fear into you, like, that wasn't even the real one.
This is very much like politics.
We were
hit by a German
question,
paddler. No, but I went to the Hofbrauhaus. I went out with friends, and when I was there, everybody there is like, political people and stuff like that. And this guy introduced me to this other guy, and he said, "Hey, this guy is an anarchist." And he said something like, but he's like a convinced anarchist. And that's not something you hear every day. And this is a, professional adult who works in the community, and he's an anarchist. And so when I heard this, I walked up to him, and, people thought I was going to be combative or something because like the sort of like determination I came at this guy with. And I sat down, and I guess I caught everybody off guard, but I was thinking, and I sat down with the guy and I said, "Hey, I heard you're an anarchist." And the guy's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can you tell me about that? Like, can you explain that to me?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What are you?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not an anarchist, but I mean, who cares? What I am is like a lot of people are. I'm interested in you."
Anarchist.
Anarchist.
Yeah, but you're an
Arcus. Yeah, I'm for Archy. Monarchy, oligarchy, all of it. But it was really cool. Like, he explained to me, he's like, okay, so basically, like, in the wild, wild west, we didn't have strong government, but society still functioned, and you know, humans can generally be trusted. And I was like, wow. Like, and I just really appreciated hearing him out. And I just asked questions. And it wasn't to be condescending or mean.
And that's genuine inquisitiveness.
Genuine. Yes, I was curious.
Right.
So a posture of curiosity, writer, is I think, a really effective way. But the big takeaway is you need to hit her with a German paddle. And that's the thing that's going to save your marriage, is just reach for that paddle.
All right. I'm going to do you a favor and edit that out.
Yeah, thanks. I got too many lawsuits. I can't keep up with all this.
So Hofbrauhaus is a German restaurant here in Las Vegas.
Authentic
and they paddle
German.
you if you order a shot.
Yes.
So we have to explain that because not everybody
Well, I mean,
Las
I thought
Vegas
that
and
all
goes
went
to Hofbrauhaus.
without saying so.
So would you advise them that they should just avoid talking about politics for a while, or do you think that this is something that they can?
I think it's a
work
tricky
through?
one. Yeah, I mean, I think there are some couples that just need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that one of the things I've always advocated for is that I think that politics is the plural of psychology. And so I think it's okay that this is who you are. This is like incarnate. It's a core value. And I think it's hard to just not reveal that. Like, I think it's something you want to bring up. But what I tend to find is that more often than not, we have a lot in common, and we just have different deliberations about what we think will get that done. Like, if I ask an ultra-conservative person and an ultra-liberal person, do you believe that an immigrant is a human being and that they have value in God's eyes, if, you know, assuming that there's like a religious bend on this, do you think that they have human dignity and values? Both sides will say yes. What's interesting is if you listen to both sides long enough, they have different mechanisms in order to like esteem that value. And they believe they're both doing the person a favor. One believes he's doing a favor by opening a border and creating a pathway in. The other believes he's doing the person a favor by not doing that. And so like, it's interesting that you hear them kind of explain this. And like, you may categorically deny one that they're right, or like logically use facts to say, well, okay, but the numbers don't align with your point of view. But I don't want to question people's human values. Right. I think that's where we get off the mark, and that's dishonest. And honestly, if you believed that these people were monsters, their political views are the worst of, or like the least of your problems. Like, you need to worry about like them butchering children. Like, if you really think that they're that bad.
Right. The last little bit of advice I've got for this listener, check out our episode on communication skills. I can't remember which one that was.
Yeah.
But this doesn't really have to do with politics necessarily, but just how you communicate. I'm one of the believers that the way somebody responds to something I say is great feedback to me.
It teaches you.
That teaches me a lot. So if I'm communicating something and I'm met with hostility, this is an indicator to me, oh, something I'm doing is creating this.
Yes.
So I'm going to try a different approach. I think you can continue to do that, and you can continue to get different feedback based off of what you're saying.
Yeah.
So check out that episode.
But yeah, approach your wife genuinely and, you know, invite her to remember who you are. And, you know, and that goes back to your cognitive dissonance point, Nick. And that's really what my cadence point is like helping the conversation partner you're having this talk with to reveal their own cognitive dissonance. How can you simultaneously believe that I'm a Nazi and I'm a good father to your children?
Right.
So I'm going to invite you into that dissonance so that you feel the tension, so that you have to do one of the four things to make sense of that, right? And that's what I think that trick really is. It's sort of like, you know, psychological judo, like pulling the person towards you rather than pushing them away with some like, you know, argument to barricade. Like, you're not going to do that. So that's how you use cognitive dissonance to win a political fight.
There you go.
Save your marriage. You heard it here on Pod Therapy.
Right here.
Damn, we're good.
All right. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are asked to weigh in on a Canadian psychologist. This will be interesting. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is co-conspirator Jake Schneider, who attempted to have a quorum with Smitty Scoop. I assume Smitty started this.
Logically.
Also involved were Judy and Nathan. So all of you are guilty. Okay, I saw you in that picture. But yeah, Jake, you tried to get away with this. But I'm going to let it fly, you know, at the end of the day, because Jake is also the champion of the Pod Therapy Pinewood Derby. And he did it with only 3 wheels. And that says a lot about the guy. So He's a damn good carpenter.
I'd say that says everything about him. I don't think you need to know anything else.
There was nothing else you need to know about Jake.
He won the Pound Derby.
That's his business cards. He just hands people his Derby card. They go, hell, I don't know how you did this.
Maybe you've heard of me.
I beat a bunch of fifth graders. You may have heard of me on Pod Therapy. Yeah. No? You don't know what I'm talking about? Anyway, can I buy this house? My credit's good. So anyway, Jake, we love you, man, even though you tried to replace me with a robot and an emotional support animal, St. Bernard. Don't take it personally. I probably also would still listen to the show.
Still a fan.
Still a fan.
I just don't agree.
I'm still going to support the show, but I'm a little upset about it. And if you'd like to join Jake, co-conspirator and quorum participant, in supporting the show, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is asking us about our opinion on another psychologist.
Woo!
Okay, so our writers write in. What are your thoughts on Dr. Jordan Peterson? Some seem to think he's perpetuating dangerous ideas, and others say he saved their lives. Curious on your thoughts. From Anonymous.
I hear about this guy a lot. And so, like, you know, and I think this is one of the things that's, you know, like kind of frustrating, or I don't know, not frustrating, but is part of our job is that we get to hear about a lot of people who are writing books, and their books might just be self-help stuff, or it just might be theory stuff. It might not have anything to do with therapy, like the messy human process of like getting into somebody's life. But we get to hear the thoughts of a lot of these writers because they get kind of spouted at us a lot. And you know, I think that's always tricky because it's like, I never want to qualify that to a fan. Like if they're like, hey, I really like this guy, you know, what do you think? And I'm never going to say, I don't like that person or whatever, because that's going to push us apart, right? So I usually try to find something redeeming about the person.
Oh, okay.
But this guy's been pretty controversial.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear this.
I mean, I'm not categorically writing him off. And so I don't know. I feel like you need to go first because I feel like,
no, go ahead.
No. You know what? I'm sick of you taking the soft path out of this. I barrel through controversy every show. I have an entire segment dedicated to apologizing for the things I say.
But that's kind of our thing. That's our thing.
That's not our thing. Somehow this happened. Stop encouraging my self-destructive.
Straight man.
That's not how it works. It's time for you to tell your side of it. What do you think?
Honestly, all right. Let me start with this. I think people can have some good ideas, and those good ideas don't necessarily mean that this is a great, wonderful person.
Adolf Hitler. Name one good idea.
I don't know.
He was a hell of an artist. His trees were great.
Maybe he really got trees. Maybe he had a great recipe for eggs Benedict.
You know, he's a vegan too.
I don't know.
Why I distrust vegans. Right there. More in common with Hitler than I do. Artist vegans.
But the idea, like, okay, here's a good example. Okay, Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Right.
You mean Dr. Philip J. McGraw?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So he had a book that my mom had, and I just out of curiosity, I'm like, well, I've got to read this.
Yeah.
And I read it, and there was some good stuff in there.
Yeah, he actually was a writer. Yeah, like he wasn't very controversial as an author.
Not really.
Until he got on Oprah.
Yeah, and then he was just, but that doesn't necessarily mean I agree with everything he does. Like that doesn't.
That's what I heard you just say.
That doesn't put me.
Why are you wearing your Dr. Phil shirt?
That's a coincidence.
Why'd you shave your face like his head? Are you speaking with a Southern accent?
Well, who raised him?
That was not bad.
I know.
You're pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, every once in a while you throw out a random accent, and I'm impressed. I would not peg you as the guy who has the accent, but you've got a lot of them.
I've only got a few of them in my bag. But...
Well, I think that also you're very sparing with them, and that's probably why they always look so good.
Yeah. All right. Back to Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah, that guy. The guy who we've now compared to Hitler and Dr. Phil.
Right.
There you go. Thanks for listening to Pod Therapy.
We're doing great. Me personally, I don't like him.
Okay.
I disagree with a lot of the stuff. I think a lot of the things that he's done as far as being on TV and some of the positions that he's made, I think there are some things that I agree with him on, but then I think some of the ways that he argues his point are completely asinine.
Okay.
And I think he does a lot of the straw man arguments.
So a lot of folks don't even know who we're talking about or what he's famous for.
He came out with a book recently.
It's like the 12
steps to
principles or something.
life or whatever. I can't remember. And this is the thing, like I haven't read that book. I want to read that book because there's probably some little nuggets of gold in there that are probably useful that would, that, you know, any psychologist or therapist could probably write and put in there. But he really became known in Canada because Canada implemented this. He's a professor, I believe. But Canada
is a clinical psychologist, and he's also a professor. Yeah,
they implemented this new law. It's a civil rights law, basically applying to transgender individuals, and using their whatever pronoun that they want.
Yeah.
So he raised a huge fit about this, and basically stated that it violates his rights. I'm not sure what the First Amendment right equivalent is in Canada, but his right to free speech, because it's the government saying what he has to say and what he cannot say. That's his argument.
Right.
But the whole thing was kind of a smokescreen because that's not what the actual law was about. All the law really was it was adding transgender folks to the already existing equal rights.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really that, that wasn't the argument, right? But he made a huge big deal out of this, and that's kind of how he got his popularity.
Yeah.
There's this YouTube channel that I watch. It's really good. It's Hugo and Jake.
Okay.
It used to be called The Bible Reloaded.
Okay.
Because they're atheists, and
have you shown me this? Is the one with the cartoons?
No, that's a different one.
Yeah.
But they did a deep dive into Jordan Peterson, and they've got some really good episodes. I haven't read the book yet, so I'm not watching it anymore until I actually read the book, so I can kind of figure out what's going on. But that's my 2 cents.
So, you know, when it comes to me and him, I don't know. Like, obviously, I don't probably align with his thoughts on the gender identity thing. What's interesting about Peterson is sort of he brings up like these very transparent, like very specific naked views about things that feel almost postmodern, in that he's like ripping away all the layers of like social norms and why we have niceties and why we have these traditions. And he gets down to like this carnal kind of instinctive mentality. So, for instance, he talks about PC egalitarianism, where he says, you know, men and women are not the same. Stop pretending that they are. And he says, yes, they get paid differently because they can perform differently. And here's all the reasons why. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And so you hear that and you're like, ooh, like, what? Like, okay. But there is something very attractive about that. And so a lot of people have felt very freed whenever he talks that way, because he sort of rips through what he calls, I think he calls like it compassion something. It's like compassion as a weapon or weaponized compassion, where he talks about how we now use compassion for smaller oppressed groups as this weapon to sort of oppress the powerful. And he's kind of almost going with the social Darwinist theory of like, no, they're powerful for a reason. Like, yes, this group of people makes more than you, and this group of people has political influence, and this group of people has might, and might makes right. And so it's a historical point of view. It is kind of this naked, like chauvinistic, masculine, like let men be men, let them win, and if you can't keep up, then you lose. And so there's something that's sort of like, you know, I don't know, laissez-faire about it, law of the jungle about it, that can be really attractive. And people can say, well, there you go. You know, that's the way it is. That's the way society's built. And he calls himself like a hyper-traditionalist. And so that's, you know, going back to old school values, that kind of thing. And so I definitely understand what I think that he does. I think that people like him find a voice whenever the scales of society are tipping one way or the other. And we've had guests on this show that have talked about this. You know, Dr. Victoria Hartman, who is like a hardcore feminist. She's the curator of the Erotic Heritage Museum, a proponent of sex work. She believes that prostitution should be legal everywhere. Let women do what they want to do with their own bodies. So she is as feminist, a card-carrying feminist as you get. And she's written essays criticizing the Me Too movement and saying, hey, this is getting out of hand. The Me Too movement is becoming this weaponized allegation process that's just getting rid of due process, and it's just taking down men because we have an axe to grind. And she is going to stand against that, right? Because that she feels like that's an overcorrection of the movement. And so I think that people like Jordan Peterson find their voice because maybe the scales are tipped toward ultra political correctness. Let's rebalance all aspects of society by, changing the rules of the game so that everybody has a fair shot and like everybody's equal again. And he criticizes socialism a lot, which, sure makes sense given his positions. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the argument, is that he brings a balancing force to that conversation. Do I personally align with that? No. Do I think that he makes points that are worthy of discussion and I'm not going to mischaracterize him or turn him into a monster? Yeah, I'd be willing to have that discussion with him. But I think that he tries to get credence for his views because it sounds like primitivism. Yeah. It sounds like, well, I'm just arguing for the primitive, humanity of the ego in man. And I don't know that I fully consent to that. Like, I don't think that that's always true. And I also don't know that primitive man is the most virtuous or authentic man either, right? Like, you could argue that a rapist is justified because he's just following, like his impulses and like, so what? He could do it. And again, I don't mean to, I'm not going to demonize him or mischaracterize him. He's not advocating for rape. Right. But, again, I can see the flaw in the logic. So to the writer, I don't know, for Nick, I mean, Nick's obviously a big fan of him and Hitler. But for me, I personally don't necessarily get a ton from Jordan Peterson, though I don't necessarily want to mischaracterize those who do.
Right. And I reserve the right to walk back everything I said because I do want to illustrate. I really want to emphasize I've seen him on Real Time with Bill Maher. I've seen a couple of interviews he's done. I saw a debate that he had with Sam Harris, but that's about it. I've not read his book. I've not read anything he's ever written as far as an article or anything that he's submitted into a newspaper, op-ed, or magazine. But I'd be
willing to
like
put his book in the book club.
I would too. Yeah. I'd be willing to read it. I'd actually love to learn more about it. I'll
qualify his ideas. That's fine. I mean, Freud had a lot of ideas that today we don't necessarily advocate, but that doesn't mean we don't learn something from robust dialogue. So yeah, even with Peterson, I'd support that. And again, I think he gets mischaracterized, but there's even been this argument about like free speech on college campuses where Bill Maher has made that point. And Bill Maher is like a liberal's liberal. And he's made the point of like, hey, guys, we can't like ban free speech. Right. Like you guys can't like, march these guys out of here because they talk about conservatism. Like you got to have all views represented. And I think that's kind of where Peterson goes with a lot of this too. So he says some things that are definitely not acceptable right now in like the political climate. And I think that's why people are attracted to that, is because he sort of has that credence to do that. And he's making a compelling argument. It's just, okay, let's qualify it, like lean in on that and have a robust discussion. But to the writer, thanks for the recommendation. I think I'm definitely willing to pick up the book and learn more about it.
We should
If
check
there's
it out.
Things that you like about him, tell us why. Would love to hear some comments on that.
Okay, well, we've now dipped our toe into talking about stuff we know nothing about. So that tells
we
us
covered
we're
some
at
good
the end of the
stuff
episode.
Today. Veganism, Nazism, anarchism, or anarchy.
Archy.
Yeah, that one.
Anarchism.
But, as we get here to the end of the episode, it's important that we acknowledge all of our Patreons, and I want to take a second to acknowledge a very special Patreon. We have no new THERAPALs. So we have nobody at the THERAPAL level. We have no new THERAPODs as of the taping of this episode. Mm-hmm. We have no new THERAPRODUCERS technically because there are only 8 seats, even though Ellie decided to pull up a chair. But now we do have a whole new category.
Oh, yeah. We got the...
we have a $40 sponsor, and it's Go Fund Yourself Scoop. So Go Fund Yourself Scoop is apparently a whole new thing, and they're like a super Theraproducer or something.
I don't know.
I don't even know what to call it.
For that yet.
I feel like Theraproducers need to be like Congress, and then like there needs to be an executive branch for whatever just happened. So like the Parliament, this is like the Prime Minister of the Theraproducers or something like that. Like they somehow have executive control. What I'm saying is they have the power to wage war. Right. But not like levy taxes.
Right. And so since they did that through a financial contribution, then is this an oligarchy?
Yeah, I feel like it just became that. So I don't know. I've gotten so lost with all your cognitive dissonance stuff. All I know is I'm going to go to Taco Bell after this, and I don't give a damn what you say or what the 4 reasons why I shouldn't. I'm doing the 5th reason, which is Jim gets to have Taco Bell. Today's show is brought to you by Taco Bell, and we want to thank our bosses, the Elite 8, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop Violon, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Don, and ex officio board member Ellie O'Dare, and now super whatever the hell we're calling it board member, Go Fund Yourself Scoop.
If you would like to hear this episode uncut and unedited, sorry, I can't.
Which you definitely want to.
Which
so
you
that
definitely
you can
want
reveal
to.
all Nick's misgivings.
And enjoy our spontaneous side projects, including our book club.
Which we are doing. Go buy Lori Gottlieb's book. Maybe you should talk to someone. A bunch of our people are buying it right now.
Yes.
And remember our tradition. Once you get the book, take a picture of yourself holding the book, post that on social media. Make sure you tag Lori Gottlieb 1 and also us at Pod Therapy. That way she knows that our listeners are checking out her book and it's going to be part of our book club. We're going to launch that in May. So you have April to go get that book. And then in May, you can find our book club on our Patreon.
Yeah, patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, even though it's level 9 today. And thanks to those who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, Pod Therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by opening this episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and now at patreon.com/therapy.
You want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at www.podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim Cheesy Gordita Crunch Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.